Hello and welcome to Fit to Speak. I'm Eugene Obah. So glad to have you with us. Today we are starting our 5th season of shows. It also happens to be Halloween, and fall has been with us for quite a while. But this past summer was quite long and frightful for Russian state media outlet RT and some of the people affiliated with it, and I'll provide some commentary about the no-good, very bad summer for them, and why certain others, as we near the election, should probably be spooked later in the show. But first, I will talk about a significant development and much more in the case of missing broadcast industry professional and the University of Maryland alum Terrence Woods, who's now been missing for the past 6 years. October 5th marked the 6th year that Terrence Woods has been missing. He was reportedly last seen in Idaho during a shoot for Discovery Channel's Gold Rush, Dave Turin's Lost Mine. Terrence's story, thanks in large part to the coverage that we have provided on this program, has received greater attention. This past summer, Dateline NBC did a podcast on Terrence's case as part of their Missing in America series, of which I had my say in a bonus commentary back in August. We'll have that in the YouTube description below, but the Reader's Digest version is that while I believe that it was, in totality, fairly reported, there were some things that were missing from the podcast, things that I believe would have helped move the needle in terms of helping to solve this case. The most egregious was that there was absolutely zero mention of the independent investigation that Crime Redefined hosts Mehul Anjaria and Dion Mitchell are conducting, which can only happen with your support. You can read the details of the investigation and donate to it on gofundme.com/investigating-the-disappearance-of-Terrence-Woods. We have the link in the description below, as well as the edition of Fit to Speak from the archives earlier this year, in which I brought both of them on to discuss it. Most recently on their podcast, the link of which we'll have in the description below, they reported a major development in this case, and that is that through the investigatory means that have been conducted up to this point, the independent investigation, not the investigation that's been done by the Idaho County Sheriff's Office, but the independent investigation that has been started up to this point, the last known coordinates of the last known location of Terrence, where Terrence was, are now known. And that is huge. The fact that we now know those coordinates, that is a huge, huge deal. I know that there is much more to be told here with this, which is all the more reason I need all of you watching this program to saddle up and support this investigation. Even a mention of this or sharing this among your friends will make the difference for the Woods family. But if you need even more convincing to join this fight, then I want you to watch the 2-part exclusive interview that I did with Terrence's father, Terrence Woods Sr. It is really, really one of the most powerful interviews that I've ever done in the time that we've done this program. Now, I'm not a parent. I'm not somebody who can imagine the pain that Mr. Woods deals with on a day-to-day basis. But what is certain, folks, is that as long as we are fortunate enough to continue to do this program, as long as we're fortunate enough to continue this and to do what we do here, we will continue. We are committed to covering this story. We really are. We are absolutely 100% committed to continuing to bring light to this case and to bring light to Terrence's story. This is too important of a story, folks. This is too important of a story not to tell it. And remember, this is a broadcast industry professional that we're talking about here. And you would think that even among fellow broadcasters, there will be more of an outrage. Remember, this is a guy who disappeared from a film set. This is a guy who disappeared from a set. This could happen, to anybody. And, of course, I hope it does not happen to anybody out there, but this is stuff that has sadly happened, and you'd think that there would be more outrage about this case. Still, regardless of what anybody else does, we here on this program are going to continue to cover this stuff, no matter what. What is also certain is that at a minimum, Raw TV, the UK-based production company of which Terrence freelanced for on the day that he disappeared, and Simon G, who was the producer on set the day Terrence disappeared, are responsible for the welfare of every person involved in the production of the programming that they produce for their clients. I am of the belief that they still have a lot to answer to. Most of the other crew members that were with Terrence, we haven't heard a peep from them in 6 years. We do not know who they are. No interviews were conducted by the Idaho County Sheriff's Office. They may know something about this case, what happened on the day, and it is long past time that they come forward with information. And I believe, based on my conversations with Mr. Woods, that there is a friend, I use that in air quotes, of Terrence that has a lot to answer to as well. You might recall on Fit to Speak from the Archives earlier this year that we did invite this supposed friend of Terrence, who we know is a UK-based producer, to come on the program and confirm or deny Mr. Woods' claims about the Zoom call he had in which, according to him, that the aforementioned Simon G, apparently, according to this producer, has information about what happened to Terrence or where he is, but wants $100,000 for said information. Now, you'd think, and this is just purely from a common sense standpoint, no pun intended, that this producer, if they thought that Mr. Woods was lying, which I don't believe he is, would be eager to come on this program and debunk it, that they'd relish the opportunity to confront him, or that at the very least say on our air, hey, Eugene, this man is lying, and this is the reason why. And, we have proof of this. But that has not, to date, that has not been the case. It hasn't been the case. And that, folks, is curious. Very curious to me in and of itself, okay? Now, remember, this person, if you watched the episode back in February, this person actually did send us a statement. They did send us a statement, but would not let us use it. Now, that's a first for me in over 13 years of being in the business professionally and, of course, doing this program, that this is kind of sort of a first, that somebody would send a statement, but would not use the content of the statement. Now, this person did cite safety concerns as the reason why, one of the few reasons that they would not come on the program. But think about this, guys. If, let's just say for argument's sake, if I had information on any of my friends that are missing, right? Or if any of my crew members were missing and I had information, wouldn't you think that you would go to the ends of the earth to provide that information to the authorities? I know I would. Okay. I know I would. And even if I did have concerns about safety or whatever else, any reprisal for even providing said information, there are mechanisms of doing so anonymously. And I hope that whoever has information about what happened to Terrence or knows where he is would go ahead, come forward, and do the right thing. And this person, by the way, has a standing invitation to come on this program and either confirm or deny Mr. Woods' claims and provide evidence of this stuff over here. All right? Now, again, I hope, and I want to be clear, I said on Fit to Speak from the Archives this, and I'll say it again, there is no proof one way or another that a crime has been perpetrated against Terrence, and there is no proof that there hasn't been a crime perpetrated against Terrence. What we need to know fundamentally is the truth. We need to know the truth. Mr. Woods needs to know the truth about what has happened to his son. And that is why, at the end of the day, this is important. So we hope that people will do the right thing and come forward with any information that they know about what has happened to Terrence. And you can do so, again, the Crime Redefined team, they have an independent investigation that's going on. We need to get the answers to this. And those who have information, again, go to crimeredefined.com/contact. Go there, get that information out there to them, to Mayhole and Dion. Get that information to them. And if you have information, if you don't want to reach out to them, you can leave a comment on this page here. Leave a comment on this page, and we will pass along that information to them. We will. And I want to put people on notice that once this case is solved, and we will solve this case one way or another, once this case is solved, if we do find through the investigatory means, if we find that there are people who have held back information, that there are people who know stuff but will not come forward, or that there are crimes that have been perpetrated against Terrence in this, if we find that out through this independent investigation that Mayhole and Dion are conducting, if we find that, then I promise you that we are going to spend a lot of time on this program calling people out on the carpet and holding them accountable for their actions and or inaction in this case. They're going to have to face me, and they're going to have to face my questions that I'm going to be asking. So again, I want to put people on notice that I take this very seriously. I take reporting on this seriously. I take this case very, very seriously. All right? Again, this is a fellow broadcast professional, University of Maryland alum. Okay? This is somebody who is very, very, very special to the Woods family and special to every person that he has met. So, again, we need the answers. And this investigation that Mayhole and Dion are conducting is the way to do it. I trust them with every fiber of my being that they will lead us and the Woods family to the right direction on this. So again, GoFundMe.com/investigating-the-disappearance-of-Terrence-Woods. The time to be nice is over, folks. The time to be nice is over. The time to be on the sidelines is over. You have to be out there. We have to do something about this. GoFundMe.com/investigating-the-disappearance-of-Terrence-Woods. Stand with me, stand with the Crime Redefined team, and stand with the Woods family in ensuring closure that is so desperately needed in this case. This show, this program, will be the weapon in ensuring accountability in this case, and I will be the one that will be wielding it. I'm I'm about to get into this theory, and stay with me on this because given the summer that RT has had, and it certainly will not be described as a hot girl or hot anything type of summer, it certainly would not even be described as a brat summer, whatever the hell that is. I'm of the belief that given the developments that have occurred, I think that there are certain people that, and when I say certain people, I think some of the upper management of RT, especially stateside, are scared this Halloween for very, very different reasons, and are probably praying to whoever that Donald Trump wins the election in 5 days. Let me explain in kind of sort of a free act play because there are things that have occurred that I believe are connected. There are three things that are, I believe, connected, or at least loosely connected to the Department of Justice investigation into RT. The first act had the homes of former Trump campaign advisor Dimitri Simes and former UN weapons inspector and convicted sex offender Scott Ritter raided by the FBI. Ritter, until last month, was a contributor to RT and was a frequent guest on RT America when that was around. Ritter said in part on X, quote, "I reject the notion that the work I have done over the past years with the newly sanctioned Russian media organizations has been anything other than legitimate journalism, the content of which has been factually correct and analytically sound, and always of my own creation. Nonetheless, I am fully committed to obeying U.S. law, and as such will be terminating all contractual relationships with both RT and Sputnik effective immediately, as well as suspending my participation in any and all media interaction with sanctioned individuals and organizations until which time it is deemed lawful to do so by U.S. authorities. That time may never come, certainly if Kamala Harris wins in 5 days." That leads to the second act of this play, which has not been reported anywhere in the media until now, and that was the auction of RT America's old equipment at its now former DC studio this past August. This was the original post announcing the auction, and here's a video from the auctioneers, Rasmus Auctions, touring almost the entirety of the space that was occupied by TNR Productions before a company called Global Tech took over months after TNR laid everyone off, which, as I remarked on the previous edition of this program, was more likely than not done under false pretenses. Now, you'd think that the layoff that had occurred over 2.5 years prior, that the equipment would have been rid of long before now. But no, that was not the case. Why? That's because two production companies were formed after TNR showed everyone the door. The aforementioned Global Tech, which hired a few of the production staff, and Rebel Media Productions for the editorial staff, which registered as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, otherwise known as FARA, in August of 2022 to produce multiple shows for RT International and overseas markets. Space used for those productions? The former TNR production space in Washington, D.C. That was done from the fall of 2022 until earlier this year when production of the shows moved outside of Washington, but still in the United States, hence this fire sale. And as a result of the sanctions, none of these programs have produced original episodes since September 25th of this year. Rebel Media Productions severed its ties with RT. Rebel's owner, the journalist Ben Swan, stated, quote, "While we disagree with the censorship of our journalists who were doing quality work on behalf of our clients, we have and will continue to respect the rule of law." Now, yes, while it is technically correct via the filings that these programs did not air in the United States by virtue of the fact that no domestic cable provider carries RT, if you really did want to watch RT in the United States, you could still stream it via the network's website. Let me point out that commercial leases, especially in a market like DC, are very, very, very tough to break. So you can see where this stuff is going, especially if, and I know this to be the case, especially from my sources, I know that that lease was to have expired years from now. So they really kind of sort of put themselves in a bit of a pickle on this. They really did. And the third act is that two RT employees were indicted by the Department of Justice for FARA violations and for money laundering to the tune of $10 million. Attorney General Merrick Garland went on to say, quote, The Justice Department will not tolerate attempts by an authoritarian regime to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to covertly further its own propaganda efforts, and our investigation into this matter remains ongoing. Those employees are alleged to have gone through great lengths. The indictment is quite a read, which you are welcome to do so in the YouTube description below. As I quoted from Attorney General Garland, the investigation is far from over. And anyone who believes that the DOJ are not going to, dare I say, question more about RT's dealings in the United States and poke around, at least, at some of the folks that were at the top of the food chain or near the top of the food chain at RT, whether it's TNR or, some of the other stuff, even the long dissolved RTTV America Incorporated, in which its owner, Alexei Iaslovsky, nearly 10 and a half years ago, pleaded guilty to tax fraud and was ultimately sentenced to probation. I've got beachfront property at the Anacostia River that I'd like to sell you. All right? If I were a fly on the wall on any of some of these people, maybe a spotted lanternfly, then most of the people who have been indicted and those people who I think are soon going to be indicted under this have probably are going to vote for Trump or will have already in this early voting have voted for Trump. And why do I think that's going to be the case? Because Trump, if he were to win, he is going to eliminate these investigations. He's going to eliminate these investigations. It certainly does not serve his interests. It's all buddy-buddy with Putin. The Justice Department under Trump, and maybe Eileen Cannon will be the Attorney General, they're not going to be investigating this. And that leaves them all free and clear. But if, maybe when, but let's just say if, for argument's sake, Kamala Harris wins in 5 days, maybe a little longer, you know that her Justice Department and her former prosecutorial self will dig further. That leaves the door wide open to investigating every aspect. Tax returns, FARA filings, bank records, the whole nine of RT's U.S. operations. That leaves the door wide open for that. All right? And, of course, if everything was on the up and up with most of RT's stateside operations, which I don't believe for a second, especially when it comes to TNR Productions. But let's just say things were on the up and up. Then this stuff over here, even this commentary, they would have nothing to worry about. You see, there are skeletons, in my opinion, in that closet that they don't want the Department of Justice to know. Now, to be clear, I am not interested whatsoever in the main thrust of the DOJ's investigation, the whole Russian interference aspects of it. I'm not interested in that whatsoever because, as I've said in past editions of this program, and I'll say it again, whatever Russia has done in 2016 and in other years in terms of influencing the US election is, in my judgment, child's play compared to the kind of stuff that CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and others, I'm not going to say everyone, but much of the apparatus of our media here in the United States did more to put Donald Trump into office than anything that RT or any Russian organization or bot farms or troll farms or whatever you want to call it have done. Now you remember Les Moonves said the quiet part out loud before he was canned that Trump was not good for America, but damn, he was good for CBS's ratings. I mean, Trump got billions and billions of free advertising, $6 billion worth of free advertising from most of the American networks during the 2016 campaign. He certainly did not need RT's help on that one. My main interest in the various woes that RT have faced up to this point, besides the fact that I previously worked for 2 of the production companies of which RT was the client, is the opportunity for real accountability and perhaps a corrective, to provide a corrective to what I believe are the lies, obfuscations, and really, frankly, concocted narrative, perhaps concocted up on the 7th floor of that office building somewhere, that have been the case, I believe, since the layoff 2.5 years ago. I think that there are a lot of things in examining this stuff and looking at these filings and that sort of thing that I believe do not add up. The math is not exactly mathing. Now, I'm not the only one that thinks this, but I have been the one that has been certainly the most vocal about what I believe has occurred. And there has to be a certain level of accountability. And I think that this investigation by the Justice Department may be the only chance, perhaps the best chance, of that accountability. And I know that there are some people who think that, yes, okay, RT was a journalistic enterprise and that the Biden administration should not have really put sanctions on the network. But that was the case. If that was the case, then why have the powers that be not filed a lawsuit against the Justice Department on First Amendment grounds? Why hasn't that been the case? You know, there is a First Amendment that protects journalism and journalists. Why hasn't there been a lawsuit to date that has been filed against the Justice Department, against the U.S. government in this case? Why hasn't there been? You know, I think that really speaks volumes right there. Look, I have some advice for the characters that have been caught up in this, the people that have been indicted, and I think those who are about to be indicted, I think, for their actions in all of this. And that is to buy a one-way ticket, maybe to Siberia, maybe to Moscow, wherever, you know, your pleasure is. Get yourself a ticket, pack your suitcase, and skip town, especially if Kamala Harris is to win in 5 days. Why? Because the accountability that's about to come at you on January 20th, 2025, at high noon, and perhaps even before then, is about to come at you like a tidal wave. Surf's up. Truth is, after all, the best propaganda. And I think when it comes to the chicanery that I believe has occurred in much of the U.S. dealings with RT, I think it's truly time to just press eject. And that does it for Fit to Speak. That will do it for this edition. Listen, there's going to be a lot more where that came from on this, so you better stay tuned to catch it all. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media accounts for more information, including all of the bonus content that you'll see on today's show. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell on our YouTube channel so that you do not miss any of our episodes. And do subscribe to our newsletter at Substack, CSEmedia.substack.com, so that you get the 4-on-1 on everything that you see at Common Sense Entertainment. Until next time, I'm Eugene Obah, and remember, we will not be silenced.